The other day, I was answering some comments underneath my older Gfuel videos. If you haven't seen those, link is down in the description below. But one point, especially under the video that I might where I compare Gfuel to GG subs, was that you guys don't like the way Gfuel mixes. And if you've watched any of the most recent video, especially the one where we tested the classified Gfuel flavor, you know that the mixing is always a point that I critique with Gfuel. So I thought to myself, there needs to be a way of making Gfuel mix better. So I went to work, I opened up YouTube, I started typing, and I actually found a video by the guru, not just a guru, by the Gfuel guru, Electric Shock himself, where he goes over how to make Gfuel less chalky. So I figured in this video, let's take his method and do it. And by the way, everyone who's new to the channel, glad to have you guys here. My name is Luke, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a streamer. All the social links are down in the description below if you're interested in any of those. But let's get started with the actual video. I will link Electric Shock's video down in the description below as well, because we have to give credit where credit is due. So in essence, the way he approaches the situation is, if you mix Gfuel in hot water, not boiling, but damn close to boiling, you will get a better mixability than if you would mix Gfuel in cold water. And he actually tested it. Like I said, link to the video down in the description, but I figured let's just try it. And then afterwards, let's go in the science of why that actually is the case. Let's get started. Let's roll an epic cinematic clip of how we mix Gfuel. As you saw, we chose the Gfuel classified flavor for this test because another thing that Electric Shock mentioned was that it also just tastes better because it is less chalky, which I guess makes sense. So I wanted to test it with a flavor that we've been drinking recently, and this is just Gfuel classified. But what you can see is the shaker is hot. You can see all this steam. We did exactly what Electric Shock said. We filled it to about 1 cup of hot water. I let it get as hot as I could in the sink, so it wasn't really boiling because we don't want to have to boil water every time we want to drink a cup of Gfuel. We filled it up, we shook it. He is right. That pressure is building up in there. So you definitely want to let out some pressure every once in a while. And then we give it a good shake. There we go. And let's just take a look at it so far, what we have. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it is a little bit cloudy in there. And as you can see, there is quite some powder that is going down on the bottom, and we will have to pull up some footage from when we tried the classified flavor. This might just be a little less than there was when we tried the classified Gfuel just in ice water. So let's put some ice cubes in this thing, fill it up, so we actually get the right ratio of water to Gfuel, because as Electric Shock said, right now we only have 8 ounces of water in here, which is half the amount of recommended water. So if we add a little bit more water in here to cool it down, it actually might mix the remaining powder in it. So let's go find out. As you can see, we filled it with ice, approximately another 8 ounces. Keep in mind, this is a big shaker. This is not a small shaker like Electric Shock used in his video. It's actually the larger ones, which I don't know if you can still get them. Let me know down in the comments below if you can still get these shakers. But we filled it with water. Let's give it another shake, and then we'll let it rest. All right, so we just shook the thing again. It is kind of early to tell if there is going to be residue at the bottom or not. This is going to focus. As you can see, there is slight residue on the bottom that's falling down right now. It seems to be very, very little, though, to be fully honest. But while we put this aside and let it rest for a second, let's talk about why this actually might work and why Gfuel might mix better in hot water than it does in cold water. It is pretty obvious when we just look at what hot water and what cold water does by itself without Gfuel or any kind of powder or mix within it. If we take frozen water, then the water molecules within the water are actually not moving around at all, or very, very little. Hence, it is frozen and it becomes a solid. If we take hot water and we increase the temperature of the water more and more until we get it to boil, the water molecules are actually moving around more and faster until it becomes a gas. When we now introduce a powder, basically anything, salt, sugar, Gfuel, into the water molecules are actually breaking down that powder. And they do that by bumping into the molecules of whatever mixture we just threw into the water. If we now have hot water where the movement of the water molecules is increased, this means that the water molecules are bumping into the mixture a lot more often and a lot more frequently than they are if the water molecules are not moving around that much, but just cold water. That being said, in hot water, the powder is simply broken down quicker than it is in cold water. This only means that hot water by itself will break down any kind of mixture faster than cold water by itself. You can still achieve the same effect with cold water by simply shaking it more often and longer. Now that I talked for a little bit, let's take a look at the mixture of Gfuel. And as you can see, there is still quite some powder on the bottom, quite a little bit of residue. We did fill it up to about 16 ounces by now. There's still some ice left in that it hasn't dissolved. Let's take a taste test. Let's give it another shake beforehand. It might be a little smoother. The powder might be broken down further, resulting in a less chalky taste. It's about the same. All right, let's get to the summary of the video. Let's get to the conclusion. And in theory, it should have worked. However, in my opinion, there was not a significant difference between the two. And in the taste test, again, it was kind of the same. Maybe later on, the powder did mix a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit more fine, and you will get less chalky taste at the end. However, with Gfuel, it is just important to mix it or give it a good shake every time before you drink it, and you will not have chalk residue at the bottom by the time you get down there. However, if we take a look at Electric Shark's video, we can clearly see that there was a difference between ice cold and really hot water difference. And the difference between his video and my video could simply be that his cold water was a lot more colder, was simply colder than my cold water, and his hot water was simply hotter than the water that I used for the test. At the end of the day, like I said, in theory, it should be working. Yes, it should be mixing a lot quicker, not better, quicker in hot water, but you can get it to mix the same way in cold water. You just have to give it a shake a lot longer than you have to do in hot water. But what do you guys think? Do you think it is worth the extra hassle of making sure the water is extremely hot until you burn your finger before mixing it with Gfuel? Or do you think, it's not really worth my time, I'm just gonna drink it and make sure I shake it every time before I take a sip? And if you're still here, make sure you tag Electric Shark down in the comments below. Make sure you watch his video as well. He goes a little bit more into depth about the taste test, about those two things as well. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next time.